Hey people, this is Daniel. I just want to apologize in advance for the sound quality of this episode. It's not so great. My neighbors were blasting Prince from their stereo, RIP, and Steven and I were debating whether to go over and tell them to turn it down, and we decided we're not those kind of people. So instead we recorded this in like a tiny little closet, basically. So yeah, again, sorry, sound quality is not so great, but hopefully the episode is still just as entertaining. Alright, thanks.
Welcome to Off Screen. This week we're reading Shadow Company by Shane Black and Fred Dekker. A disillusioned Vietnam veteran comes out of hiding to fight back against his former squadmates who have risen from the dead. So, this apparently was Shane Black's first screenplay, and it was optioned, and it had John Carpenter attached to direct.
John Carpenter of Halloween fame.
Right, one of our most famous horror directors.
And Shane Black's like one of the most famous action writers, I would say.
Definitely, yeah. He wrote... You want to say what he wrote?
Lethal Weapon.
Well, he wrote the Lethal Weapon sequels along with... Or no, I guess he has story credits for the Lethal Weapon sequels, but he wrote The Last Boy Scout, Last Action Hero, Iron Man 3, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. He has The Nice Guys coming out in a couple weeks. I guess he and Fred Dekker are attached to write The Predator.
Like another Predator?
A sequel to the 1987 sci-fi film Predator. So they're both attached to write that.
I didn't know they were making another one of those.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't be surprised.
Well,
he and Fred Dekker aren't, like, always writing partners, though, right?
No. Fred Dekker has a lot less credits, but they are attached to write that one together.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like Fred Dekker, he wrote on one of the RoboCop movies, and some other much smaller stuff, some TV stuff, Tales from the Crypt, Star Trek, interesting.
Cool, yeah. So... we would call this like a supernatural horror action film?
Yeah, appropriately. Okay, I think primarily it's an action.
It's an action film.
Movie. Yeah. Action movie, please.
Whatever.
I wouldn't call this a film.
I use those words interchangeably.
But, yeah, I think it makes perfect sense for John Carpenter and Shane Black to be, or to have been involved in this, because, yeah, it's like an action horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you want to call zombie a whole genre unto itself, which I think some people do, or at least
it's a subgenre. It's a subgenre of horror. Right?
Yeah, but anyway, I still think this is primarily an action movie.
Sure.
But anyway, should I get to the summary?
We'll get to this in the summary.
Okay. At the end of the Vietnam War, 6 American soldiers go missing while on a top secret mission. 16 years later, their bodies are discovered inside a temple in Cambodia. The U.S. military immediately flies them back to a base in the town of Merritt, California, where the men are buried. But that night, all 6 of them rise from the grave. Like zombies with superhuman strength, the Shadow Company still believes they're on a slash-and-burn mission overseas. Instead of killing commies, they're now slaughtering the innocent citizens of Merritt, California. Only a man named Pollard stands in their way. The would-be 7th member of the Shadow Company, Pollard, pulled out of the mission at the last minute. When he hears the news, he comes out of hiding to face them, at the same time saving his son Kyle, who happens to live in the town. Kyle had thought his father was dead. Now he learns it's just the opposite. As Pollard explains, the Shadow Company was the subject of a military experiment which left them virtually immortal. That's why it takes an absurd amount of explosives and gratuitous violence to kill every last one of them. Kyle helps his father along the way, but in the end, Pollard is forced to sacrifice himself to kill the last of the Shadow Company. And this time, despite Kyle's pleading, Pollard intends for them to stay dead. Like, his dad is going to have to stay dead, but also all of them are going to stay dead.
Wait, what?
Right?
But like Pollard doesn't die at the end.
Are you sure? Or is he just not coming back to his son?
Yeah, he's just bouncing.
Well, that's messed up. I thought he was saying that because he's, like, actually going to die this time.
No, I think he just thinks it'd be weird if he saw his wife after 16 years.
I thought that was like partly why he came back.
To save them, to not be...
He was going to save...
Not to be a father, God.
He was
way too much responsibility.
He was going to come out of hiding and travel all the way across the country and, like, save his estranged wife and then just be like, alright, deuces.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't say, like, I'm about to die now. He says... Wait. Does he die?
I don't know. I guess it's not as clear as I thought it was.
Hold up. Well, he says, Kyle, I can't stay. Your mom thinks I died 18 years ago. Oh, but then he says, neither will I, but sometimes the dead should stay buried. What if they shouldn't have died in the first place?
Yeah, so I don't know.
It looks like he may or may not be dying, but either way, he intends not to be a father to his son.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, which is pretty messed up. I don't know why he came all that way to save them. I guess it was less about saving them and more about just killing his former...
I think one thing to add to the thing is that there was like this crazy general, Woodhurst, and he's the one that spearheaded the project in the first place.
Right.
And he's the one that brought them back from the dead by...
using Agent Orange?
Yeah. That's how they are...
Okay, Agent Orange
made
was
undead.
That was like used as a chemical weapon, right?
Yeah.
So why aren't there a bunch of zombie dudes running around in Vietnam right now? That's what I want to know.
No, because it was only these 6 dudes that had everything else done to them. Agent Orange is Agent Orange is just like the activating, like making you undead agent.
I didn't realize. Yeah. I mean,
so like they shot him up with a shit ton of PCP and other hormones. They said PCP.
Yeah, they did.
And other chemicals, and the catch was, these guys are like stripped entirely of their humanity and also their ability to die. But if they do happen to die or get killed a lot, then some Agent Orange will bring them back, I believe.
Okay.
Is how I took it.
Yeah, they never explicitly like state the purpose or the goal of the project. It's just kind of like they're trying to make.
Well, by the end, it
kind of becomes.
Oh my God! Yeah, it kind of becomes like a metaphor for just war, and like war just being this unrelenting, despairing, terrible.
And to be a good soldier, you should have like no humanity.
Yeah, so it's like this. Yeah.
But we should zoom out a little bit. We got caught up by that confusing ending, but like just to explain, I feel like this was written in I believe 1988. It says our draft. Yeah. This is like the epitome of 80s cheesy machismo.
Yeah, like to a off-putting degree.
Some might say. Yes.
Some might say.
Like basically almost like the whole second act of this is an action sequence.
Right.
It's like, unrelenting.
Unrelenting, and because the stakes start so high, they aren't raised. It's just like...
That's true,
them just slaughtering people in one place in the town, then moving to the next place in the town, and slaughtering there.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth.
There's not so much, like, a development in the plot as there is just, like, further exploration of fun ways to kill people and zombies.
Right, and also a lot of macho posturing, like for both Pollard and for his son.
I'm getting the feeling you didn't really like it that much.
Did you like it?
I laughed at some parts. Like, I thought it was kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's not my cup of tea, I guess.
I think a lot of people make fun of like 80s movies now.
Yeah. Because
they see the over the top violence and stuff. They see it as trying to be serious or something, and that like, oh wow, people actually thought that was like really badass and cool. But I don't think that's fair. I feel like from the jump, even back in the day when we were making a lot of movies like this, it was always with a sense of fun, and like they know they're being ridiculous. Is that just me? I feel like people now, looking back on the 80s, they look down on it.
Oh, maybe the things haven't aged well because of their lack of self-awareness.
You don't think there's a self-awareness here?
To this screenplay?
Yeah. I mean, like, that scene, there's a
Not
scene...
Not really. I don't know.
There's a scene where it's like that, cliche thing of two kids making out in their car.
Yeah.
And the girl is like, I heard something, and he says, wait, let me guess, I'm supposed to get out of the car, and there's some guy waiting there to kill me. but they decide to keep the car doors closed, but one of these zombie army dudes drops a grenade in the car, and when he's like feeling her up, he reaches and holds a grenade, and he finds like a grenade up her skirt, and then the whole car blows up. Like
that's meant to be like ridiculous shit.
Yeah, that's self-aware to me. Like it's playing off of
it's making fun of like earlier 80s horror movies, right?
I think that goes probably even farther back.
Yeah, or 70s, whatever.
But I think there is a self-awareness here, or at least if it's not necessarily... maybe there's a difference between, like, self-aware and like, you know, like Deadpool, which is completely breaking the fourth wall. Explicitly acknowledging that it's a movie. This is not going that far, but I do feel like it's definitely self-aware and just trying to have fun with the tropes and things.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a distinction there that we're not making, or I'm not able to put into words, but...
I'm trying to give this more of the benefit of the doubt, because, like, yeah, it's not my cup of tea, but I enjoyed parts of it, and it was, like, really good at what it's trying to do, I think.
Yeah.
Was there anything you liked about it?
I thought the first scene was pretty, like, well written.
The first scene?
Yeah, well, I'm just starting from the beginning.
Okay.
The first scene where we meet one soldier that goes into a Vietnam, like, dive bar.
Yeah.
And he wants to play poker with the death squad, and they basically ignore him. Or I guess we shouldn't call it Shadow Company. And then they kill him. But it's really written, like, in a really visceral way.
Yeah.
Like, the description is pretty... Like, with the sounds and the lights, it's kind of transporting.
Yeah.
You feel like you're there. But then some of the other... I don't know, it was just kind of jarring for me how things like that would be written in such a impactful way, but then he would also, like, address the reader in weird ways that kind of, like, take me out of that.
Yeah, like, he would say stuff like, you know, they like, shoot a guy, and he's down, and he's like, and he looks like he's down for good, but think again.
Yeah.
It'll, like, say that in the description lines, like, not in the dialogue. It'll just be, like, the writer talking to you.
Or, like, I guess towards the end, Heather, who's, I guess, like, the female protagonist.
She's, like, Kyle's high school sweetheart. Kinda.
Yeah, on and off again.
It's complicated.
She's, like, confronting her zombie father, and she, like, looks him straight in the eye, and the description line says, Heather looks her father straight in the eye, and believe me, it isn't a pretty sight, or something like that.
Oh,
like, 'cause his face is all...
I mean, that's pretty small, I think.
Well, no, but I mean, it's that sort of thing, and
of
which there are numerous.
I felt like the tone, or the, like, style of the writing was pretty consistent, though.
Really?
I mean, it was weird. It was kind of different from what we're used to seeing, for sure. Because it does seem very, like, savvy. It seems like this guy has written a bunch of scripts already. You said this was, like, his first script that was optioned, but I don't know, it feels very slick.
Okay.
Maybe it's all his posturing, too. Maybe he's just trying to give off that macho vibe, but yeah, some of these, like, descriptions and stuff, like, it sounds like a film noir almost. I was gonna say this first description that we get of Pollard, the main guy, it says, the loneliest man in the world, 3-day stubble, movie star handsome, but hardened. Like, maybe he's seen more than a man really should. Like, all of that.
Sure. Anything else you liked?
I mean, I thought the action was really well written, and it read really fast. There were some really, like, funny, but again, cheesy lines. So when the zombies come out of their graves, they're totally naked, and they go and ransack this nearby supply depot thing, and they get armor and weapons and everything. And so after that, some soldiers come upon the scene, and they're like, whoa, this place has been ransacked. And they're kind of, like, listing all the things off that they took. They're like, they took, like, a flamethrower, they took this, like, armor and grenades and whatever. And then one of them says, like, they took a tripwire. And then he looks down and he sees a tripwire that he's just tripped. And then they just cut to exterior. The building explodes.
Right.
That was good. I like that.
That's been funny. I can kind of see John Carpenter directing this.
Has he done, like, any real straight-up action movies?
I think stuff like Assault on Precinct 13 and Escape from New York and Big Trouble in Little China, they maybe have similar tone to this.
Yeah. I guess we're both struggling to find much to say about this.
Yeah.
Because there's not a lot that really happens other than just, like, cool action scenes and
then the other stuff is really tertiary to that. The end is really corny, where Heather confronts her father.
Yeah, so I thought you were going to finish that when you were describing that scene a minute ago, because, yeah, what happens is her zombie father is about to basically just kill her, and she says something about how
I can read it. I have it in front of me. And if you do, then fine, I'll just die, because I'm better off dead. I'd rather be dead if fathers can kill their children.
Yeah. And then she finally says just like, I love you, Dad. And then somehow that, like,
then she fires a squirt gun with no water in it, and that kills him.
Well, that wasn't what killed him. It was the love.
Right, it was the love. It was the projection of love. The love gun.
So love is what kills these zombies, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, that's just like...
Love and also explosives, because that works
love
too.
And, yeah, being burned.
Yeah. That was pretty effective.
Or having your limbs and head chopped off. But it was... Yeah, I don't know. Should we just go into what we don't like?
I think we were already kind of doing that, but...
Yeah. I guess for me, the biggest issue, or maybe not the biggest issue, but a issue, and I said this already, is that it's just kind of flat. It's just, new ways, new places to kill people or have stuff be blown up.
They tried to, like, characterize the 6 dudes in the Shadow Company, but they're basically indistinguishable, I mean...
Oh, and I hated that at the beginning, where they superimpose the name and...
Oh, I actually liked that.
That's very 80s corny, like, not self-aware.
I think it's kind of... I don't know. I hesitate to say it, because now I think you're gonna think less of me, but I kind of thought it was nice. I thought it was...
But there's really no point to it, because
it's just like,
they're all zombies. So,
yeah, well, that's...
So what's the difference? Why do we need...
I didn't know that at the time when
I
saw it.
Why do we need 3 lines of text describing them?
Yeah, it said, like, their name and their rank and, like, serial number or something.
That's what's superimposed, and then, like, it's like a good 2 to 3 line description for each.
Yeah.
Of, like...
Well, that wasn't part of the super, was it?
No, but...
Yeah.
It was with their introduction.
Yeah, but, yeah, they try to describe, like... Here's basically what amounts to, like, a personality for these people.
Sure.
One of them looks at porn all the time. One of them likes using a flamethrower. One of them wears aviator sunglasses. And then one of them's Mexican. Oh, that's the fire guy.
One's a New York Knicks fan. The other has a wife.
Has a wife? No,
yeah, Doris.
Wasn't there something else about him? I forget.
He had, like, his wife's name, like, on his jacket or something.
Okay.
I don't know.
But yeah, that's like his... I guess it doesn't matter, because, they're zombies, so it should have just not even bothered trying to give them personalities. Wait, there's a scene I want to ask you about. Do you remember the part where Kyle was in the alley, he was running away from one of the zombie soldiers, and he finds, like, a dog in the alley?
Yeah.
Am I understanding this correctly? But he basically used that dog as a shield, right?
Yeah, I think it is a shield dog. The dog dies.
It's a dog who, the first thing that happens, he's running from this soldier, and he sees a dog. For some reason, he decides he wants to pet this dog while he's in the middle of running for his life. And because he does bend over to pet the dog, he misses the bullets just overhead that were coming for him. So this dog saved his life, basically. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he uses it as a shield.
Let me just reread this to make sure. I don't think he used it as a shield.
What, you think he just accidentally got caught in the crossfire?
Yeah, the dog got shot instead.
No, it seemed to me like he was purposely huddled behind the dog. Okay.
I don't know.
Whatever. The dog's
dies.
A tragic figure.
Yeah, the dog exists to be...
It saves his life and then it tragically dies.
Gets one last good pet in before he catches a hailstorm of bullets. There were a lot of typos.
Yeah.
Like an extraordinary amount.
If you're living in that mindset,
yeah,
Steven,
I guess.
you can't be bothered to go back and proofread.
But this isn't even supposed to be the first draft.
Well, and there were 2 people presumably looking at this.
Yeah. But I mean, just because, this, from what we've read, it was his first screenplay. So, like, most people's first screenplays aren't great compared to their 6th or 7th ones.
Yeah. But, like, this, I feel like this style, like I was saying, that sort of 80s macho style is such a finely tuned... I can't think of it like a comparison to it in the present day, but it just seemed like they had honed this kind of movie to, perfection, and this is it. This is like the epitome of that kind of thing.
I mean, he was one of, like, the biggest screenwriters of the late 80s and early 90s, right? Making this type of movie.
Yeah.
But...
Alright, well, if we have nothing else to say,
okay.
Before we do verdicts, let's say all our...
let's talk about, let's thank Devin again, because we forgot to mention it last week. Thank him for...
He requested last week's episode, or last week's script. Yeah.
You can find us on iTunes. You can also find us on Facebook, where we have a poll to read either a David Lynch script or a Blacklist script. Which you choose.
At this point, I feel like it's just going to be an indefinite length of time.
Once we deem this poll has received a sufficient amount of votes, we will then pick the winner to read.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's facebook.com/OSPodcast. You can email us at info@ospodcast.com. Our website is ospodcast.com. We're on Twitter @OSPodcast. We're on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. And we're always open to requests for scripts, if there's anything you want us to read, or if you just have feedback.
Yeah.
Anyway, verdicts?
Verdicts I would pass on both.
I hate to say it, but yes.
Well, so here's the thing. Here's my question. I was actually going to ask you about this.
Okay.
Because when you did the Max Landis, when you gave your verdict for Max Landis as a writer, you base that off of more than just Deeper.
Right, because we had also read another script by him.
So our knowledge base is limited to what we have read as a part of this podcast.
No.
Okay.
I was still going based on only this podcast, but having read those 2 scripts by him, I suddenly realized upon reading the second one how versatile he was.
So you were
as
using
a writer.
previous existing knowledge that you had. You were using your knowledge of Bright, and that informed your verdict on Deeper. Yeah.
Like if I had that knowledge before, when we had just read the first script.
But say I read the screenplay for Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
Could I use that to inform my verdict of...
Have you read the script for Lethal Weapon?
No, but you chastised me for Bone Tomahawk, because I had read a previous S. Craig Zahler script.
I don't know. I'll have to go back and check the record on that. I don't remember that.
Okay.
But I reserve the right to change my mind about
certainly. I don't mean it in a...
Sounded like a little bit like you were putting me on blast.
Maybe I was putting you on blast, but I'm just trying to clarify for my own.
But I think it's fair, especially for the writer, if your verdict for the writer hinges upon outside knowledge of his other work, I think that's entirely fair. I'm starting to think that's like the whole point of the writer verdict.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's also for gauging the potential of him to do something else.
Right.
Him or her to do something else.
So, with that in mind, what were you going to say? You still pass on both.
Well, I haven't read the Lethal Weapon script, so...
Right.
I guess if we're just going to limit it to screenplays that we've actually read, like, obviously he's a highly acclaimed screenwriter that's probably done a lot of good stuff. But I've just read this one screenplay, and from Shadow Company, I wouldn't recommend him. Nor would I recommend the screenplay itself. Yeah.
Well, I would pass on both too, but I just want to make it clear, it's not that I don't have respect for this kind of writing, because I do think there's a place for it, and I think he seems to be good at it. It's just not like if this were off-screen pictures or off-screen studios and we were going to be optioning scripts, this would not be the kind of thing I would want to option. I would pass on this.
Well, yeah, and I don't think this is a grand example of what he's trying to achieve.
You don't even think it's a good example of that?
I mean, I don't think so. I think there could have been more character arc.
That's not what these kind of movies are about, though. I mean...
But it makes them entertaining. This is just the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
More, I guess, just change in amplitude.
Yeah.
More ups and downs, more twists and turns.
Okay, that's fair. But
something maybe more thematically resonant.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm passing on both still.
Yeah.
All right, well, next week?
But next week we have an exciting one that just sold.
There are actually, I think, 2 Uber driver movies that recently sold, or scripts about Uber drivers that recently sold. This is one of them.
This is the one with the catchier name.
Yeah, it's called Stuber. I believe because the main character's name is Stu, and he is an Uber driver, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, the logline. An innocent Uber driver's night is turned upside down when a crotchety old cop ropes him into a plan to get revenge on the criminal who killed his ex-partner.
Cool.
Okay.